Hello, and welcome. We return once more, assuming everything is working. Which I can only hope. Okay, good. Everything is working. So, um, yeah, I'm slightly late, I suppose. I mean, a minute or two to be technical. Well, three, but well, there's good reason for that, probably. I totally wasn't working on nation rules till the last moment and then looked down and went, oh no, I'm late, you know? But yeah. So you'll forgive me, of course, it is Miscellaneous Friday, in which we run Solo Sunday on Miscellaneous Friday, even though it is, you know, none of the above. I actually wonder, give me half a second. Here we are. Actually, it might be Friday or Sunday here. So, there's that. Which is always good. Anyway, I suppose with very little delay, we'll actually get into playing the game. But first, you'll forgive me, I just hopped on real fast because, well, as I said, I was doing a bit of nation work. And before we get right into it, I need 1 minute to sort of finish the math I was half through an equation for before before I realized I was late. Let's see. So, by the way, just so you know what I was working on, nation rules and so forth. Specifically, what I was doing was working on nation rules for administration of galactic nations, of course, and specifically distance calculations for power decreasing via range, because the larger scale control you have of a nation is in blocks. It's hard to explain. It's not really hard to explain. I'm just doing it fast. Um, Basically, the calculations for nations have different scales. A world has control and then penalties drop off in a system. A system has control and then penalty drop offs in a subsector. And a subsector has control and penalty drop offs in a sector. What I was doing is determining this. So there's also distance drop offs. I'm trying to determine whether a new structure can be added to the system in which a hub that increases your distance, basically, your control distance. So basically, currently, if you have a subsector, you're taking a -2 per subsector of distance away. So if your subsector, say, has a bonus, being your nation bonus, well, I suppose, oh God, no. Things get more complex when I think about it. Now I'm thinking I messed up in the calculations because technically everything together, multiple subsectors make up your nation total. So would it be just per sector at that point? Mm. Well, I know that per subsector, every square away is an additional -2. So I'm trying to determine, is it better statistically to have it so every 2 sectors is a -2? So that would be a -2, which means I was doing calculations based on starting at the corner, just so I could determine totals all the way across the sector. Anyway, so that'd be -2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. If it's per 2, we're going 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10. So I suppose -1, does that provide the same distance? Yeah, basically. So we'll do -1 per sector instead of -2 using the control hub, assuming this system even works. So basically it's going to be -2 per unit of distance becomes -1 per unit of distance. But I just realized here, when thinking about it and explaining it out loud, that perhaps that doesn't work because nation total is your subsectors added together. And if you have multiple subsectors added together, where do you measure that distance from, right? In which case, we could either have it as -1 per sector outside of your own sector, or outside of your nation. Anyway, anyway, we're not going to dwell on that right now. This is Solo Sunday in which we run the game. It's just I was literally working on that last minute until the thing started. So I was halfway through figuring that out. I'm not going to start solving the new problem that I've just realized here. But, I was just working on that. I want to finish my thoughts on that before. Okay. So we'll figure that out. I'm going to make a quick note. There. Sorry about that. I was just making a note to myself about about basically looking into that one new problem that we've acquired. Okay. So let's get down to actual game. Assuming I can find the right map. Here we are. This is technically the right map. So, Juliana Aldis, our adventurer, intends to head back to the area, the zoo area around it, to start asking the locals about if they saw anything, while trying to, not be remembered by the local gang. We also have some notes. Let us quickly check those. But yeah, while I bring up the section, yeah, we're always working on Galactic Requiem and ideas and so forth, and improving the system and all that, adding items, formatting files, just constantly working at it to make it more ideal. And like I always said, well, I said before, I'm pretty sure, I think I've said here, the nation rules are one of the sections that are still being worked on heavily. So, we just also did some work on the hacking rules for increasing and upgrading the hacking rules. So, just things we've been working on recently. Because it is always a work in progress. Here we are. So, last time on our World Building Wednesday, we worked a little bit on our plot events for this session. What we determined is we're going to have 4 plot events. 5 are the standard, but we rolled none on one, so it's basically negated. So we have 4 plot points that we might hit upon: tension, action, mystery, and action. And they turned out to be into the unknown, meaning we're going to have to make a choice somewhere that we don't know the result of; rescue, which likely points towards our primary target, the one that we're trying to rescue and or capture, depending on how you want to put it. A character returns, but unfortunately we didn't have any to return, so the chart said generate a new one. And there is a character that could help with the plot named Istor Delta, who is a old gambler. We'll see how that comes into play. Probably one of the people we'll find if we succeed our search checks. Collateral damage, meaning there's going to be collateral damage of some type. Now, these aren't necessarily going to be hit, but the entire point is when randomly generating and interpreting through our solo session, we are, well, of course, we can simply avoid a turning point. We can, as, the player, we can just be like, you know what, we're not going to look into this plot line, the plot line being searching for our target. So of course we are, but as a player, we could be like, we're not going to look into it, in which case we would ignore the plot line. It might resolve itself. It might deteriorate, disintegrate. Who knows what would happen if we don't look into it? But basically, it would progress on its own, either for our detriment or downside, if we don't look into it. And when I say progress on its own, I mean like theoretically some plot points are constant and just get archived and could come up. Even if they are solved or deteriorate, they get archived. But like if a plot point, which could be, is something as simple as here's a long-running archaeological mystery, it's not going to go anywhere more than likely unless, some plot events are like other people are searching for it, in which case you can ignore it till it comes up again. But in this case, given that it's sort of time relevant, we want to get to the plot points unless we want them to deteriorate. We could, ignore them and let them deteriorate, but we're not going to. I mean, just because the way, like I said, the way we run is open world. Players control the thing. And, even if the bot's running, we're the player, so we control where and what we do. Of course, we are bound to follow what our character that we follow feels. And so, we follow Yelena Aldous. Of course, from a lore perspective, I, Casimir Basilius, am only watching the events of Juliana Aldis's life and what she's choosing to do, and manipulating them slightly, of course, with our, fate-altering device that we have in front of us. Anyway, so we're going to try and hit the plot points, basically. When interpreting the events that since we're tying with it, we're going to try and hit the points. Okay, now that that brief explanation is over of how this works, it's been a while since we've used one of these charts, so I thought it was rather good that we cover what it means and why we're interpreting things in certain ways and why we're bound to it. Loosely bound to, if we're doing the plot line, we try to hit the plot points. If we abandon the plot line, fuck it, we do what we want. But we're going to try and hit the plot points. Because we're going to go with the plot, because that's what the character wants. Okay. Without further explanation, Yulana Aldous is... I'm sorry. It's nothing bad. I just got... One second. I have to process my thought process here before I explain it. I just got hit by a concern. The concern I got hit by is money. Juliana Aldous is a mercenary. I just remembered, how much are we getting paid for this after all? I mean, are we getting paid per day? Are we getting paid per completion? Okay, I know that it's not these ones. These ones are old. Once again, we come to the point of I should take far better notes. Hmm. That's not ideal. That is very much not ideal. I probably stated it many, many weeks and weeks ago, but I do not appear to have it easily accessible in my notes. I doubt it's the 5,000 credits per 2 days payment because this is a long contract. My best guess? No, that's a previous contract also. That's unfortunate. I might not have it noted. For now, we'll work under an assumption. Because I'm pretty sure this will be accurate-ish. And that assumption we're going to work under is that we are on a contract, more than likely. That contract is likely an ultra-dangerous mission. We are likely getting, this is an assumption, but we're likely getting 50 to 100, maybe even up to 400, possibly, 1,000 credits. So 50 to 400,000 credits per month is my assumption. The reason for that assumption is task-wise, contract-wise. My notes here say contract-wise, a month-long contract in a dangerous environment with moderate risk of injury or death is 20 to 50,000 credits. A month-long task in a dangerous environment with high risk of injury or death is 50,000 to 100,000. And if death is almost assured, we're looking at 100 to 500,000 credits, say, for 2 weeks. If death is almost assured, 100 to 500,000 credits per 2 weeks. So we're probably looking at 50 to 400,000 credits a month, more than likely, payment-wise, and likely to be paid at the end of each month. That is an estimate. I forget what my far previous statements were before. We've probably gone over it before. I'm not trying to change the amount or anything. It's just been, for me, probably literally many months since I went over the total that we would be earning from this. Many months. And apparently my notes are so bad that I didn't note down the exact amount. But luckily we do know, like, average contract amounts. So we'll likely get that much a month, give or take. So at the end of the in-game month, we'll get that. So yeah, it's worth, the mission's worth it. Anyway, let's see. Of course, payment-wise, if the contract is complete, Well, there are certain stipulations in such a contract. For instance, you must do your best to find the target, of course. You can't just dally and wait, you know? You have to prove that you're trying and making progress towards it. And of course, if you are found in violation, you don't get paid at all, etc., etc. You know, standard stipulations. So we have to at least try to proceed at a reasonable rate. Also, of course, there's a time thing in which if we complete the contract before, we get a bonus. But if the contract goes for a certain amount of time, we stop getting paid because, you know, contract eventually is like, you know, we don't need the target anymore and so forth. And anyway, so Juliana Aldis will head back towards the zoo. She's not injured, is she? No. So she will head back towards the zoo. In search of, well, anything she can find. The question is, did we want to bring not the gangsters? Did we want to bring the uninjured mercenary with us? Technically, we could bring the injured ones too, but he's down to action die. If we take our bike, we can only bring one other person, really. So we'll take the one uninjured mercenary. And we'll take the bike. I say bike, it's let's make sure it's a two-person vehicle. Let's check its stats. It's a hover bike, technically. Well, a hover motorcycle, but, you know, terminology. Hover bike. I mean, how is it even a motorcycle if it doesn't have wheels? But, you know, let's not think about that. A UEC hover bike. One crew, one passenger, yeah. Cargo 50 pounds. How fast does it go? Like in actual speed. Of course, here we have its movement rated at 3,520. Oh, quick tip. I found this out and I have it sort of memorized now. If you want to ever know, like, the rough estimate of in movement scale of like dice games, if it's 5 foot squares, if you have the or just if it measures in feet, basically divide the total movement by 8.8 to get miles per hour. I believe it's been a while. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So yeah, you divide it by 8.8, and here we have 400 miles per hour. Of course, you can do it in reverse, times 400 miles per hour by 8.8 to get your total movement. That's in total in a 6-second turn. This is, of course, using 6-second turns as a measurement. So, yeah, of course, that's relevant because, you know, different systems might have different time per turn. 6-second turns, 5 foot squares, but you measure it as feet by 8.8 time feet divided by 8.8 for miles per hour. Miles per hour times 8.8 for feet. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, 400 miles per hour. Not bad. Not bad. Now I'm curious. Let's open our big book of vehicles. Let's see here. So going at 400 miles per hour. We're looking at the slow end of, like, propeller, not the slow end, but, we're looking at, like, propeller aircraft speed. A bit slower than jets, a bit higher than some slower propeller craft. Not bad. Of course, we can't travel that fast. We are underground, you know. So being underground, we are limited to street speeds. The average street speed being, well, it depends on your lanes of transit and the like. We're talking standard street speed here. So let me open my GM book. I know that it's on average 30 to 50 miles per hour. Could be 60. Usually, for standard street speeds, we're looking at like 30 to 50. Well, 50 for, more advanced streets, larger and so forth. 30 more for 20 to 30, technically, for more residential, This isn't accounting for stop signs and the like, and stop lights and all that. Here we are. Yeah, the average speed limit for roads, we're looking at 30, 32. Just this isn't obviously the actual standards. This is for calculations and the like. 32 to miles per hour to 50 kilometers per hour. I believe that's kilometers per hour. I don't have it listed as kph. And then for highways, we're looking at 62. So given this is roughly basic roads, we're looking at 30 to 40, maybe 50. Okay. And we are traveling. Well, let's quickly do another bit of math by opening up our speed. Make sure I got that right. Yeah, 50 kilometers per hour. So, going from somewhere over here to somewhere over here, knowing that this is 5 kilometers, just from previous measurements, I'm pretty sure it's 5 kilometers. We're looking at traveling from over here, 10 kilometers, 1/5, 12 minutes, then stoplights, if I've done my math right. Could have done it completely wrong, but I'm looking at this and it looks like 12 minutes. Add in stop signs and traffic, maybe 20 minutes, give or take, yeah. If I've done my math right, 20 minutes, give or take. As we make our way down the road, because of course it's not a straight line. Well, there are some primary roads that are relatively straight lines, which of course we've added a few minutes, like 8 minutes for stop signs and turns and all that. So 20 minutes, we get to our target. So, hopping on the bike, Juliana Aldous and the mercenary will hop in the enclosed section of the bike. You don't obviously sit on it as a hover bike. It's meant to go in the air quite a bit. It has enclosed sections, of course. Hopping in the enclosed sections of the bike, they will, Juliana Aldous will, well, in the area, Juliana Aldous will be like, hey, we still need our target. I have an idea. We can ask around the area and try and find if the locals know anything. Of course, we'll have to be careful. I'd like some backup given that the gang is a bit touchy last time we were there. And the mercenary will be like, the mercenary will probably, agree. I suppose we have control over the mercenary. We did decide before that the mercenaries won't count as full-on NPCs using the bot's NPC control. We did decide that way back that of course, the gangsters, as they're completely unrelated to us, are allied gangsters, that is, completely fall under NPC rules. Our allies, we decided we will mostly not count them fully under NPC rules. So we'll say that the mercenary will agree. I mean, he's getting paid for this too, and they need to show results if they want pay too. The other two are injured, so, their results are, hey, we're injured, we're spending the time resting. It's fully understandable. Hell, we could rest, and it would be understandable given the fact that we spent most of the day running about searching already, but. So, the mercenary will agree. They'll head to the garage, hop on the bike, and, the mercenary will basically ask you, Leanna, all this. You sure heading back out there they won't immediately know it's us? All this will say, pretty sure they won't. I mean, if they do, we'll get out of there as fast as possible, but that's why I wanted backup. The other mercenary will grunt acknowledgement and be like, I suppose, the, I suppose the sooner we get any lead, the better. Julianus will nod and say, as she's hopping on the bike, and say, the longer we leave it, the less likely we are to get anything out of it. It's best if we're on the trail as fast as possible. The merc will agree as they hop on the bike too. The bike will seal, and they will raise up above the ground and hover out of the area and towards the location. Of course, we don't need to make checks for driving or piloting because you don't need to make checks for driving or piloting if you're doing standard use of the object. Of course, that also applies for starships unless you're untrained in starship use, in which case it depends on what you're trying to do. Some standard stuff does require checks if you don't have starship operation feat for training. So, they will begin making their 20-minute ride towards the destination. Let's see. Like I said before, our goal is going to be to take all of this a bit slower than before to get all sorts of details in and the like. Traveling down the somewhat enclosed tubes of the underground section. We are one layer underground, so traveling down the enclosed tubes of the underground section, the occasional neon and all, both, by the way, holographic lights with advertisements and signs for buildings pass by as they travel down the roads. Traffic does slow them slightly as they head towards the destination, down the turning pipes and corridors, what seem like corridors, of the underground section. Is there anything you learn all this wishes to bring up to to the one mercenary she's traveling with? Let's have a little bit of fun. You and Aldous will ask. You know what? Yeah, we know a little bit about Juliana Aldous. Juliana Aldous will ask if the mercenary reads any books. If he's read any good books recently. His response is going to be, because this is random while we do determine their things. Sometimes you have a yes/no question like this, so 8. Our total's 8. His response is 8 is no. Even if we added a +2, that's a 10, which is still a no. So his response is going to be basically no. He'd be like, no, I haven't read any books recently. Haven't even seen a movie in a few months. You and Aldous will just sound acknowledgement at that as they travel towards the destination. They'll talk a bit more about media, talk about what the last thing they saw were. You and Aldous will point out that she read a book recently on a mission 2, on one of her missions heading 2. She read a book recently. The Merc will mention that the last thing he watched was indeed a movie, and it was. This is where we'll have some fun. Oh, try not to throw a dice onto the floor. Oh, yep, nope, those are the right dice. We'll start with a d6. Not a d6. We're starting with a d8 and a d10. Five. No, 8. Which means 41. 41 and 1. Technically did that in the wrong order, but 1 and 41 gives us a picture of what looks like either a video game speedometer for a car, or video game health bar, or in some old video games of light, or more accurately, it also looks like a floating eyeball with spikes under it. So more than likely we'll say that the mercenary will mention that he recently watched what could best be described as a horror movie. He'll point out, yeah, last movie I watched a couple months back was a horror movie. You know, all this will, mention some old horror books she read way back, and, as they travel. And they'll discuss that kind of thing as they travel. I think, all this will make a joke, I suppose, in relatively poor taste about earlier in the in-game day, when they ran across the pile of dead gangsters and the Death World monster in the zoo. She'll make a joke in bad taste probably about how they're lucky they weren't in a horror movie there, and they're lucky that this is, not a lucky that they don't live in a horror movie, because they were sure hitting some of them tropes back there. And now they're heading back there, so alone with less people, no gang with them, and no other mercenary to back them up. Okay. So they will arrive at the location. We'll grab this. Of course, last time, when they fled the zoo, earlier today, I believe it was, one group, the gangsters, started responding, so we know that the basically event happened rather quickly before we arrived. The gang showed back up, saw us fleeing, chased us, and we took out 3 of their cars. Their truck arrived at the location, but of course we're not going to go down the same road. We are in a different vehicle, and hopefully, they didn't get good looks at us in our gear, and hopefully those that did aren't around or didn't transmit and so forth. We'll of course find out as the bot decides, but we'll take other roads to get there, because it's not like this ends here. There are a series of interconnecting roads, as you can see, like down here. There's many ways to get anywhere, so we'll take a different series of roads to get there. And we will stop at this building, more than likely, pulling up to it. We'll find one of the parking sections and approach the building. Parking even further underground, pulling up to a parking section and parking even further underground. Our gang our two people will make their way out of the somewhat dimly lit, somewhat disused, given that this is heavily gang-controlled territory, underground parking section. Do they encounter anything while they are leaving? Because there is not a non-zero chance. Oh, this one's important, so we'll roll it here. As per our rolling rules. First for chaos, no chaos. Next for yes, no. Do we encounter anything in the underground parking lot of concern? 4. No. 4 is a no. Even if we added a 4, it would be an 8, which is still a no. So it's very unlikely. We likely see... Well, let me double check my rules. Because there is, for that kind of question, so that's a loose, heavy no. It's on the edge of heavy no. It's actually on heavy no, so there are probably a few people in the parking section, probably maybe a few gangsters, but no large groups of people, and nobody paying any attention. Nothing of basically any significant note. Obviously, probably some people around, but nothing of major note. They're not causing any trouble. They're barely paying any attention. As we make our way up through we'll probably take the elevator up to the level that we were on. And from there, we'll walk from the elevator area to the building, which will of course take us a little bit of time as we arrive at the nearby buildings. Likely we parked around over here somewhere, underground, so the reason being is if we're going to search the area, we might as well start searching all the way, across. So, we'll make our way towards this business section. In fact, we'll start with this building. Even though all the bodies were up here, might as well start over here. Traveling down the disrepaired and, I mean, they're not damaged or anything, but, seldom used, trash-filled streets, our mercenaries will make their way. Too late now. I realized maybe we should have parked in some of the parking nearby here, as opposed to parking over here somewhere even further underground, because that will make getting away harder. But, too late now. We'll make our way into the store here, and we will make a check. Where's our roller? Not our roller, our skill sheet. So we're going to be making investigate canvas area using charisma. Okay, let's check our personal sheet. Here we are. Absolutely nothing, and -1. That's just great. Let's look at our ally. Trying to find their sheet. Give me a second. They're not rolling at a penalty, at least. So let me do a quick check. 2 quick checks, actually. Check 1 being, can you assist on this skill check? Yes. Okay, good. We'll assist our ally. And question 2, does this skill check have the bribe tag? Because if it does, we're just going to throw down a bunch of money. No, but we do have to spend money to get some information anyway, but we don't get to add to it for the bribe check. Okay, fine. Hmm. So we get no bonus. Okay, let's, oh, we can take 10 or 20. I think we'll take 20. That'll make everything so much easier. We have to roll, though, for our, wait, no, can we? I don't think. Let's see. The rules state what? Sorry, looking up the rules. Rarely does it come up where a person wonders, well, if you can assist on a take 20. I'm not sure. Doesn't come up often enough that I know the answer to that. Here we are. Can't do it when you're distracted or endangered. Can't do it when your error range is above a certain amount. Can't do it with concentration. Can't spend action dice on it. Okay, where's the section on assisting? Because it might be covered under there. My apologies, I didn't expect this to come up. Like I said, it's a question that's not often asked. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here it is. Here it is. You cannot take 20 if with a cooperation, apparently. Let me just read this last section. My apologies. Here we are. Mm-hmm. Here we are. Perhaps, but it seems like no. Okay. That's all we needed. So we're just going to take 20. Anyway, because the result's going to be better. So that is going to be a flat 20, of course. Here we go. A flat 20 will get us the information we're looking for, but how long will it take? Because, taking 20. Oh, gosh. I mean, we've already done it and it's worth it, but my gosh. That is 2 days. Nope. Yeah, 2 days. Basically, we wander the area for hours and hours and hours, asking at the store, asking at these stores, asking around here, asking all throughout the arcology block, asking all throughout here, everything up here, basically asking everyone in the entire area for 2 days. Meaning we have a few calculations to do. We're going to have to calculate for events that might occur. And we will quickly calculate our allies. Our ally will be healed. Our other ally will be healed. Wait a second. Okay, one bit I did get wrong. It's a bit riskier, but we have the choice of, we do technically have the choice of splitting up and searching, which would cut our time in half to 1 day, technically. So we'll do that. It is risky because if we have any encounter, any sort of bad encounter, we will have to solve it individually without any support. But it's better than spending 2 days because that way we won't have to tick up our time has passed timer by 2. We'll only have to tick it up by 1, which we'll do now. There we go. It becomes 4 out of 12 as we spend a day asking around. Which, not taking 2 days, I think is worth the risk of having an encounter alone as opposed to with an ally. So they both separate and ask around the section, taking half the time. Meaning, of course, Yelena Aldous will take 20 on her own, which does give a 19, but we can boost that with our AI, basically. So, let's see. We have an AI, right? Yes, good. We have an AI with Charisma 10. So yeah, we'll just boost it with our AI, basically. Okay, good. So, that also gives us 1 detriment, if you didn't know. No, because it doesn't need to be connected to the net to get that bonus, so we don't technically take a detriment. Okay, good. Okay. If we wanted to get a +4 as opposed to a +2, we would have to connect to the net, and then we get a bonus. Anyway, so our allies will still be healed by then because just averages, but we roll slightly less events, but if any events occur, they happen alone. Let me check our random event thing. For that, I need to quickly bring up a file. Give me a second. Here we are. Random encounters. So we are looking at a modifier of, if we go with normal 2d10, we're going to add a -8 modifier. 2d10 -8, and on an 11 or more, it happens. However, we're not looking for trouble. There's not necessarily danger, but it is an eventful area given that there's gangs. So we add 2 to the roll. So 2d10 -6 is basically what we're going to be dealing with. 2d10 -6. How often, though? 1 to 4 checks per day. So let's roll a d4. If we can find our dice roller. Here we go. 2 events. 2d10 -6. No event? Yes event. So we do have an event occur, given that that is a 13 and the minimum is 11. So, while we're asking questions out there, an event occurs. We will also have to roll for our ally, technically. So let's roll 2 more. Well, let's roll a d4. 4 for our ally. No. Yes. No. No. 1 event for us, 1 event for our ally. Okay. Let's go back to our file with random events. Here we go. Unfortunately, as I have to have another file open to look at this, I'm going to roll physical dice because it's easier than switching back and forth. Okay, and then we roll that again. So we're on the last tier, which is encounter. And the encounter is a... Yep, it is people. They are causing trouble. They're not being... Okay, so they seek to cause trouble, but they're not currently absolutely combat hostile. Had we rolled 10 instead of 8, or 9, 9 to 10 technically, they would have been immediately hostile, or basically, initiated hostilities immediately. With a 7 to 8, they are not immediately hostile, but they seek a hostile encounter. We might be able to defuse it. So, we'll see. Let us roll. Well, let's determine. Also, let's quickly determine what our allies' encounter is while we're here. 1 other type of encounter. 10. Well, that's far less bad, I suppose. Our allies hit by a car. Okay, a little bit of math needs to be done. At least we weren't hit by the car. Sorry, going to the collision damage chart. Okay, it's not like the car was trying to hit him. It is a natural, basically, event. It is basically accidental, for the most part. Okay, so our ally is going to take 4d4. Not ideal, but... ten damage. Very much not ideal. Luckily, the armor does technically have some protection against that. Meaning our ally will take 5 damage, as he's basically skimmed by a car traveling down the street while he's not paying too much attention at one point. I mean, this is a dangerous part of town. While we have to deal with people. So, let's move our token and do some generation. Quickly go over to the bot encounter chart. Basically, we know the encounter type. Now we're trying to generate the statistics of the encounter of these people trying to cause trouble. Here we are. First question, of course, I'm not going to roll visibly, but that's just because I have to have a second file open and make it so much harder. 14. There are 2 of them, because 14 is more than there are of us by plus 10%, but we, can't have 10% of a person. So there are 2 of them, but they are not as equipped as us. They are wearing standard equipment. By that I mean like clothes and the like. But they will have weaponry. They are local gangsters, so they will have probably reasonable weapons, more likely SMG tier. So 2 people, pistol and an SMG, will approach, seeking confrontation. Okay, here we are. Grab 2 tokens. So as we're asking around, basically, we'll set the scene here. As we are asking different people about if they've seen anything, some local gangsters in one of the buildings will take a note and try and cause problems. I'm building the map, so. I believe that's the right size. Yep. Basically, let's do some fancy stuff here. And by that, I mean, we'll make sort of a room like that there. Throw down a table in it. Yeah, it would fit. So, make sure I got that to the right scale. Nope, I didn't get to that to the right scale. There we go. So the room should be... No, the room can be that big. That's fine. There we are. There's not a house there, but it's like a another section of something. We have just gotten done talking with the person in there. Okay. I'm going to roll a d4 real fast. 1 or 2, they're from the north. 3 or 4, they're from the south. 3. They approach from a section over here. Probably lean against walls down a corridor. That's like so. Probably a corridor here. They were leaning here. We passed them, started asking questions. They overheard because the door was open, stopped leaning against the wall, and wandered over to here. Now, they're not immediately hostile, but they seek to engage in hostilities. So, let's see. I should have had lunch before we started, but as I said, I was working on stats and so forth for nations and basically got completely distracted. Let's see. Here we are. So they will approach, and let me quickly open the AI call. We know that they're acting aggressive. So let's roll this die. 5. Continue the current action or take it to the next level, whichever makes more sense. If they've not yet acted, treat this as a theme action. So that means, basically, they will turn the corridor, approach, and basically begin confronting. One will step forward and basically say, hey, you're asking a lot of questions around here. You live here? You know, obviously knowing that Juliana Aldous doesn't. Likely, like I said, the entire point of it is to interpret it. They don't want to immediately initiate hostilities, probably because Juliana Aldous is in heavy combat armor with a rifle slung. Let's see. Juliana Aldous will turn and look at them, just staring in bewilderment for a few seconds before saying, don't think it's any of your business. And they will respond with, probably not too happy at that. Let's see. They'll respond with, it's our business what happens in this block. You and all this will respond with, yeah, it's our business what happens in this block, so you best move along. You and all this will state, I'm here on official business. So I don't think I will be moving along. Let's see. Let's give them another roll. Continue the current action or take it to the next level, whichever makes more sense. Apply a -2 to the disposition score, representing a possible shift in the current attitude. So they become slightly more wary. -2 disposition doesn't mean, by the way, more angry. It means basically their disposition modifiers, which affect how they view the situation, lowers. basically meaning they're slightly less hostile, ever so slightly. Likely they see the armor and gear and are a bit concerned. If it was a plus, it would be an increase in anger and or hostility and or disposition modifier. So they're a bit concerned that they're not in armor and don't have basically an assault rifle now that they get a good look at the armor. But they don't give up. They'll basically point out at this point, let's see. You got questions to ask them elsewhere, not in this block. Scram. Juliana Aldous isn't really the type to be intimidated, but we'll see. We will see. They are going to try and make a intimidate check. 1. Critical failure. Juliana Aldous is... does she wish to throw down an action die? Yes. No? Let's see. Maybe. Let's consider. Well, we also get to resist intimidate with a 12, which is against their thing with also a penalty for them because Juliana Aldous is so well equipped and they're not. We succeed at resisting intimidate. Do we want to throw down an action die against it? Let's see. Nah. With a standard failure of a 1, they take a minor penalty because we're not going to throw down an action die on it, or rather save our action die. But it does mean their error range has increased. And that they have an additional penalty in trying to intimidate us for the entire thing, basically. Juliana Aldous will immediately counter by Juliana Aldous will counter by cautiously putting her hand, not drawing the assault rifle, but on the assault rifle and saying, counter intimidate and say, you better get out of here before there is trouble. With a 19 versus their resist intimidate of 7, which is a failure on their part. Meaning, here we are. With success, the target will perform an action in line with what we're trying to achieve with them. So they, as we've technically succeeded, they will not want the trouble. They'll look at their equipment. She'll put her hand on an assault rifle, wearing, heavy combat armor, which can stop rifle rounds while they're holding SMGs, and they'll be like, okay, look, no trouble. As Joanna says, I'll ask my questions and then I'll be gone. They'll be like, okay, we don't want any trouble. It's fine. And they'll go back and they'll of course lean back against the wall, mumble angrily amongst themselves about things. What's their total again? Sorry, I need to make a quick check. And it will determine a few things. They have a 7. So their total is 10. We have a 19. So our total is we have 19, which means our total is 21, which is 10 over. Because 10 versus, yeah, 21, that's over 10 over. So they, if it was less, what I would have had happen is basically they might, if it was by basically no degree, just a success, they might get more allies and show up or do something shady or hostile or anything. If it was by none, they might get more allies and try again. If it was by one, they might do something non-hostile but try and interfere in a loose way. If it was not by, if it's by 10, they're just not going to, they're not going to mess with that situation. They want nothing to do with that. So they'll just mumble angrily amongst themselves and, disregard it. Okay. So you and Aldous will ask her questions as that's the event that occurs for her. Okay. With our totals, we did basically succeed in getting the information, which translates to doing the math there, my apologies. We get 6 bits of information. Wait, is that even right? Let me double check. Yeah. Okay. Basically, let's see what we get. Because we could have them as generic clues, but we won't. We'll have them as actual bits of information. So let's open up our bot sheet. We'll just scroll all the way to the bottom, just because it's easier to work this way. And now you see why my notes are so disorganized. Six bits of information on the target and events that occurred at the zoo. It's going to... No! That's the one problem with editing this. On occasion it gets a bit jumpy. Nope. Just type it out. Quiet weapons fire could be heard. Someone saw. Let me go to our, I scrolled away from it, unfortunately. Word generation chart. This is our quick interpretation chart. What did somebody see? Give us a description. Unfortunately, this got unformatted, so I need half a second to reformat the file. There. And there. Nope, one more. Hit tab. There. Perfect. Okay. Oh, the entire section's unformatted. There we go. That, I believe, fixes it all. So what is the description? The description is somebody saw something that was officially descriptor 2. Strange word choice. Festive. Officially festive. We'll interpret that in a second. We're going to get them all down real fast. These are basically the different statements by the people. We'll generate an action that somebody thinks happened. So we'll go to the actions chart. Of course, none of this is necessarily true. These are people's statements. 61. Oppress. Masses. Officially festive. Oppress masses. We'll do another set of these. Let's see. Another descriptor. 17. Cheerfully. Lonely. Last one. And then we'll put it all together. And this one will go with actions again. $65. Attach. Goals. Okay. Officially festive, oppress masses, cheerfully lonely, attach goals. Time to interpret. Attach goals. Took the target. Somebody saw them. Take the target. As in, it was stated, let's put a statement. They took somebody with them. Oppress masses. Hmm. We'll have to figure out what that means. Cheerfully lonely. Single vehicle. There was a single vehicle. Officially festive. That one's strange. Officially, to me, implies government, obviously. So it was likely government forces. And for festive, festive doesn't necessarily need to mean happy. Well, we know they were in full kit and the like. Government spec op forces, oppress masses. Hmm. How to interpret. Oh, oh, I got it. That's a good one. The gangsters submitted when the spec ops show up and were like, going to hand over the person, but were all slaughtered anyway. Okay, that's the information we've got on it. It was government spec ops. The gang, we now basically have report. It's not confirmed, of course, but people in the area are saying it was government forces that did it. Looked like spec ops. Basically, some people are saying the gang immediately surrendered, but we saw they were all killed. A single vehicle of spec ops handled it, which is shocking. They must have been real well equipped, and they took the target with them, which we already knew a lot of this, but you know. And the other one bit of information, because like I said, there are six, and as you can see here, that's 4 and 5. Well, I suppose that one's covered by some of those. Let's see. A a picture of their car is acquired. Well, more so truck. From one of the locals, we get a picture of their truck, and let's see. They traveled west of the zoo. Okay, that should. I mean, I wish we had more. I suppose the first one's not really valuable, so we can get that to be a bit more valuable. So we'll make that one a bit more valuable. Let's see. The truck was seen pulling into one of the arcology blocks. Okay. So we have a lead. We have a rough idea that it pulled into, we know it pulled into one of the arcology blocks. One of the locals saw it pull into one of the nearby arcology blocks. We know that there was at least one team in a car that got, well, a truck that got the job done. But we don't have much. It's still not a lot. At least it's a location that we can search. And as I have some things to do, and probably should have lunch before then, and coffee, we will call it there. And next time on, well, we'll prepare on World Building Wednesday. And next time we run this, we might have some heavy combat encounters as we search the site that they were at, which probably will have some combat. We'll see. But unfortunately, we'll call it there for now. Thank you all for stopping by. We've made some progress. Like I said, we'll take it slow, add all sorts of details and such, and the plot progresses. Wait a second. Now I'm concerned about one quick thing I want to check. Let's see. Were there any plot points we could have hit that we should have hit? I suppose we will hit those ones next time. We now know where our target is to rescue. We don't know what's in the arcology block. Collateral damage is likely to happen, and we'll likely find Istor there in the arcology block. So we'll have all that ready for next time. We've hit loosely some of them, as in rescue and into the unknown, as we're going to be entering enemy territory, more than likely. And we know that our target is what we're supposed to rescue, so that fits. Don't know what collateral damage is yet. Haven't met Istor Delta yet, so, we'll see how that goes. Thank you all for stopping by. Oh, I keep doing that, but I keep forgetting parts. Experience. Today's objectives were easy. So, 11 XP, which brings us to 83. Okay. There. Now that experience has been awarded, oh, we also need to increase days by 1. Thank you all for stopping by. Have a good day.